Making smart product decisions, especially in the AI era, is like navigating uncharted waters. You need both vision and adaptability to succeed. And if you're wondering how to chart your course through this technological revolution, today's episode will be your compass. I'm Ross Webb, and after leading product teams at places like Amazon, Just Eat, and beyond, I've discovered that the most successful product leaders aren't just keeping up with AI, for example. They're actively shaping how it transforms our industry. And today, I'm excited to introduce Lane Shackleton, Chief Product Officer at Coda, who's been at the forefront of many revolutions in product management and has some amazing insights into the AI revolution in product management today. Now, this episode of Product Team Success is brought to you by Top Rods, the community putting productivity back in product management. Just like AI needs the right training data to excel, product leaders need the right community to really thrive. Now, coming up in this episode, why AI is reshaping product management faster than you think, how to future-proof your product career, the blueprint for building adaptable product teams, and practical frameworks for AI-enhanced decision-making. Now, over to Lane. Lane, navigating AI's impact on product management, I think, is like steering a ship through rapidly changing waters. And you've spoken about a fascinating concept of a multi-agent world. Could you break that down for product leaders who, let's say, are trying to chart their course through this transformation?
It's a huge topic, and it's one that I think we should all feel very invested in. Maybe that's the first thing to say is if you're not a product person and thinking about how your career evolves with AI, how your role evolves, I think you certainly should be, in my opinion. So that's the importance of it. I think the other thing to say is I think we all know this, and especially if you're working on like generative AI stuff these days, it feels very difficult to keep up with the pace just in terms of innovation, new models, new infrastructure, new tooling, et cetera. And that to me is just a leading indicator of how fast the role will change because of it, just in terms of innovation, new models, new infrastructure, new tooling, et cetera. And that to me is just a leading indicator of how fast the role will change because of it. So if you think about your day-to-day tasks, the things that you're doing, you see the hints of it. Now, generative AI is pretty good at writing PRDs, given a set of inputs, given a set of customer feedback, things like that. But clearly, that's just the start of all of this. And it feels like a very low level and insignificant start of a tidal wave. And so in my mind, part of what we need to be thinking about as product people is how do we build ourselves up to be resilient to change? And how do we do that in such a way that fosters continuous adaptability? And what I mean by that is like, okay, there's this onslaught of new tooling, there's this onslaught of new ways of working, there's this onslaught of agents that could replace parts of my role, et cetera. But you can either bury your head in the sand or you can get in the weeds of all of these tools. And so I think one of the most exciting parts about being a product person is being curious about new things. And the other thing is being, empathetic to how other people are thinking and feeling, users, customers, et cetera. And so if you pair those things with this like massive tidal wave of change, I think it actually fits pretty well together in the sense that I think we have to be super curious about everything coming out in AI. And that has to be the default. Also have to be super empathetic to the idea that I am not the center of the universe. And I, as a product manager, IC, or product leader, am completely replaceable. So let's just like lift our set of assumptions or constraints for a minute and then say, okay, like how does that actually play out? It plays out this way. You've got this sort of multi-agent world that are building the same products that I'm building, but without me at the center of it. What is the human's role in this? I think the human's role is something akin to making something that other humans want and being empathetic to that. Coda and Shashir and me, we have a long history with this concept.
That perspective really resonates with what I've seen in the field. And speaking of adaptability, In my time at Amazon, for example, we constantly had to adapt to new technologies and ways of working. And you've highlighted adaptability and resilience as crucial skills. What practical steps can product teams take away to build, let's say, to build these muscles?
I think one of the things that has always interested me is how work gets done, how systems create repeatable results. And probably one of my favorite stories is not in tech, it's in comedy, from Jerry Seinfeld, had the most popular show on TV, he's an amazing comedian. And the story I like to tell is he was at the height of his career, he had just finished Seinfeld. And what happened next was basically he had 15, 20 years of material, and he went out there on stage one night and said, basically, this is the last time I'm going to perform this material. And the kind of hard question is, what does he do after that? Like, all his comedian friends are like, what are you doing? This is insane. You've got all these jokes that kill it for 60 minutes. Nobody has what you have. And he's like, I'm throwing it all away. So the coolest part of the story to me is the fact that he just does the exact same system that got him there in the first place. So what he does is he wakes up, he drinks coffee, he writes jokes for 1 hour, and then he goes and performs that material at night. Wake up, drink coffee for an hour, perform the material, perform. So all it is, he had a goal to get back to 60 minutes of great material. And I think this extrapolates so well into product and tech and like business. People have these aspirations. So they spend all their time thinking about what's the goal and how do I make it measurable and blah, blah, blah. The goal is a tiny portion of end output. The really meaningful thing is, what is the system that is going to propel you towards this goal?
That's such a powerful framework for building resilience. Let's explore the future landscape. And for example, let's dive deeper into the multi-agent world that you've been describing. For product leaders wrestling with AI integration, can you paint us a picture of what the future looks like? How do we maintain our human edge while leveraging AI's capabilities?
That's really all that matters at the end of the day, right? Like, we can all set super lofty goals, revisit them every 6 weeks, once a quarter, once a year, whatever. All I really care about is, what are the rituals and what are the systems that are going to get you there? So I think some of the most interesting rituals are at the center of a business. So if you think about what a business does, plan, build, execute, learn. So I think a lot of times when I'm talking to other leaders about their rituals, I want to go into the meatiest, hardest thing that they do. One of those is decision making, for sure.
You know, I really love how you frame that human element. And it really reminds me of challenges I've had at, let's say, early career product managers that I've worked with. And, you know, I often mentor early career product managers who worry about AI's impact on their future. They're looking for that edge, let's say, that'll help them really succeed. How do you see AI actually helping product people develop their strategic thinking muscles, if at all?
I think one of the most interesting questions that you can ask a product leader is just, how does your decision-making process work? And then you watch them go, oh, interesting. I've got 12 different answers to this question, depending on who the person is and how we're operating on a given day. So I think rituals for decision-making are really interesting. I think one of the things that we do at Coda that has now been adopted by many of our customers is think from first principles around, what do we want the decision-making process to be like? So we talked a second ago about crafting your rituals. I think this is a great area that I would encourage teams to really craft. Okay, how do we want someone to feel in our organization when they're making a decision? Just like a user, just like a customer. What process or cadence or approach is going to lead to higher throughput of decisions?
Having built product teams at scale, I can see how transformative this, let's call it this democratization of knowledge could be. Could you expand on why this excites you so much from a product leadership perspective, Lane?
Like I've had that quote from James Clear on my desk forever, that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And I think that is, boy, I've seen that be true in my own life and a lot of different product teams that I've worked with. I mean, I think for us, the ritual comes first, or like the principle comes first. And I think insofar as you can craft those from first principles and say, okay, what do we believe about transparency in our organization, as an example? Okay, let's decide whether we want to be a hyper transparent organization or whether we want to bias a different way for specific reasons. Now let's talk about which tools accommodate that principle is a much better way to do some of these tool choices. And I think that one of the reasons I think people default back to docs and sheets and like kind of the most flexible version of this is because every team is like super different and wants to operate a very different way.
Speaking of building effective teams, let's talk about systems. You know, now that you've shared some really powerful insights about systems and rituals in decision making, at Just Eat, I remember we learned this lesson the hard way, but I don't want to go too deep into that. Could you walk us through how product leaders should think about building these frameworks from your perspective?
I don't know. I'll tell you two things I've been thinking about lately that I'll leave you with. One is just the power of consistency. I've found this, I don't know why this has been on my mind recently. I think it's a combination of personal life and work. But just the power of consistency has been really interesting lately. And I think that if I were talking to a set of people that are thinking about how do they improve their work, personally, I think the first question to ask yourself, at least the question I'm asking myself again and again, is like, is this something I can do consistently? Is this something I want to do consistently? And I heard this great definition of happiness the other day, and it was very simple. I think it was Daniel Kahneman. It was happiness is wanting to continue what you're currently doing.
The future of product management isn't about AI replacing us. It's about amplifying our uniquely human abilities to understand, empathize, and innovate. Lane's fantastic insights today have shown us exactly how to prepare for this exciting future. Thanks so much, Lane. And remember to follow Lane on LinkedIn, where he regularly shares game-changing insights about product leadership in the AI era. And if you're ready to accelerate your product leadership, join us in the Top Prods community, where we provide the frameworks, accountability, and peer support to help you thrive in this new world. So thanks so much for watching. And if you're hungry for more insights on leadership in product management, watch this video with Sean O'Neill, who's also an ex-Amazonian like myself, right here. So Lane, thank you so much for joining us. I really love what you're doing with Coda. And from me, Ross Webb, until next time, bye for now.